Love wears many masks, and too often we miss it because it doesn't come in the form we were taught to recognize. We expect grand gestures, poetic words, or daily affirmations, forgetting that not all hearts speak the same language. Some souls have been shaped by silence, by survival, by harsh lessons that taught them love is dangerous, even weak. So they hide it, protect it, even bury it beneath layers of distance, sarcasm, or stoicism. And yet, beneath those defenses, love still pulses like a hidden flame. What if the quiet way he checks that you've eaten is love? What if the way he fixes something before you notice it's broken is his offering? What if the way he withdraws in moments of pain is not indifference, but his fear of being seen too clearly? Many do not know how to give love freely because they were never taught how to receive it safely. Instead, they learn to tuck it behind roles and responsibilities, hoping someone will one day see through the veil. When we misunderstand these masks, we judge them, we assume coldness, we label them distant, uncaring. But often, the person behind the mask is aching to connect, and simply lacks the emotional map to navigate the terrain. They're afraid to remove the mask, because doing so means exposing a face that may be vulnerable, unsure, even unworthy in their own eyes. And so they love from a distance, from behind glass. But love that wears a mask is still love. It is cautious love. It is untrained love. It is the kind of love that needs safety, not suspicion, patience, not pressure. If we learn to see beyond the surface, to sense the care in the unspoken, the tenderness in restraint, we discover that the mask is not a lie, but a shield worn not to deceive, but to survive. And in rare moments, when they dare to remove it, even for a second, we glimpse the truth, that this love, though quiet and awkward, is real. That behind the silence lives a soul longing to be understood, and perhaps to be loved for the very way it struggles to love. The wounded often withhold what they crave to give, not because their love is absent, but because their pain is present. Deep inside, they carry a reservoir of tenderness, devotion, and longing, but their hands tremble when they try to offer it. It is not that they do not feel. In fact, they often feel too much. Their love is intense, raw, overwhelming, and for that very reason it frightens them. To open the heart is to open the wound, and many have learned that love and hurt often arrive hand in hand. These are the ones who want to reach out but freeze, who want to say, "I need you," but the words get stuck behind pride or fear. They have been taught by heartbreak or abandonment or betrayal that to give love freely is to invite disaster, so they ration it, they measure it, they wrap it in control or disguise it as detachment. And all the while, the very thing they hunger for most, to be seen, to be close, to be safe, is locked behind a door they themselves are too afraid to open. When love arises in them, it is not always a joy, it is a threat. It stirs up memories of loss, of giving too much and being left with nothing. So they act in contradiction. They may push you away even as they long for you to stay. They may mock the very intimacy they secretly dream of. They may act as though they do not care, while inside they are aching for someone to prove them wrong. This inner conflict is not cruelty, it is protection, a defense mechanism carved over time, forged in the fires of disappointment. For them, love is not just a feeling, it is a battlefield of memory and meaning, and so even as their soul reaches out, their psyche pulls back. The result is confusion, inconsistency, and sometimes pain, for both the one who loves and the one who longs to be loved in return. But underneath it all, their love remains, hidden, guarded, waiting, and what it needs most is not force, not demand, not proof, but compassion, patience, presence, the kind of steady warmth that says, "You are safe here, even with your scars. You don't have to be perfect to be loved." Only then, slowly, will they begin to loosen their grip, to soften, to offer, without trembling, what they have kept locked away for so long. Not because the wound is gone, but because love, true, unconditional love, can become the balm that heals it. The shadow side of love is fear, an ancient, primal force that lurks beneath even the most beautiful intentions. Love, in its purest form, is open, vulnerable, and free. But few souls can remain so exposed without trembling. For with love comes the terror of loss, the echo of past betrayals, the dread that what is cherished today may vanish tomorrow. And so, fear slips in silently, not to destroy love, but to guard the heart that dares to feel it. This fear does not always appear as panic or tears. Sometimes it wears the mask of indifference. Sometimes it looks like control, criticism, or distance. Sometimes it is buried so deep within the unconscious that even the one who fears does not recognize its grip. But it is there shaping choices, guiding silences, building walls. The more one cares, the more they have to lose. And the more they have to lose, the more fear they must wrestle with in secret. Love activates the most tender parts of the self, the parts that want to be held, to be known, to belong. And with that yearning comes the memory of all the times that love was unmet, misunderstood, or taken away. These memories do not fade. They linger in the psyche as warnings. Don't get too close. They whisper, don't trust too fast. Don't love too deeply. It's dangerous here. And so, even as the soul reaches for connection, fear places a trembling hand on the heart's door. This is why some people sabotage the very relationships they desire. They flee not because they feel nothing, but because they feel everything. Their fear tells them that love will leave, or worse, love will change them, expose them, unravel the delicate scaffolding that kept them safe. And so, they preempt abandonment by retreating first. They shut down not to hurt you, but to protect themselves from being hurt again. But fear is not the enemy, it is a shadow. And like all shadows, it only has power when it is not acknowledged. To bring it into the light is to reclaim the energy it has stolen. To name it is to lessen its hold. When we understand that fear is love's shadow, we stop fighting it as an intruder and begin listening to it as a teacher. It shows us where the wounds are. It reveals where the soul still trembles. It invites us to slow down, to build trust, to create safety before we ask for surrender. Only when love and fear are held together, seen not as opposites, but as companions, can the heart begin to expand. In that space, a more honest love emerges, one that doesn't pretend to be fearless, but chooses to love anyway. A love that sees the trembling and says, I will not run, I will not punish your fear. I will stay until love feels safe again. And in that staying, the shadow begins to soften. And fear, once a cage, becomes a threshold. The unconscious speaks through actions, not just words. It is not fluent in language as we know it. It does not speak in declarations, promises, or poetic confessions. It speaks in gestures, instincts, patterns, and silences. It is the unseen engine beneath behavior, the quiet architect of how one shows up, especially in love. And often, while someone may struggle to express affection verbally, their unconscious is communicating volumes through the small, easily overlooked details of how they move around you. He may not say, I love you, every day. He may fumble with vulnerability, avoid eye contact when emotions rise, or stay silent when words are needed most. But notice how he worries when you're unwell. How he remembers things you forgot you told him. How he adjusts his routine to make your life a little easier, even if he never mentions it. These are not just habits. They are the unconscious revealing its devotion through the body, not the mouth. For many, especially those not raised in emotional fluency, love becomes a doing, not a saying. The psyche, guarded by layers of unspoken history, often resists open expression. But that does not mean love is absent. It means it is encoded. Encoded in the way he waits up at night without asking, in the way he chooses to sit with you through your storms, in the way he fixes what is broken, even if it is something as small as your favorite cup. These are not meaningless acts. They are symbolic offerings from a soul that may not know how to speak the language of love, but longs to be understood. Words can be rehearsed. Words can be armor. Words can lie. But actions, especially the consistent, unconscious ones, do not deceive. They arise from the deeper currents of the psyche, often without the person realizing it. That's why you must learn to listen differently. Listen not just to what he says, but how he moves, what he chooses when no one is watching, what he prioritizes when there's no reward for doing so, and it goes deeper still. The unconscious is a keeper of wounds as much as it is of love. So sometimes, love shows up clumsily. Sometimes it's hidden behind withdrawal, or disguised in overprotection, or expressed through efforts that don't look like love on the surface. But when you understand that these actions are the psyche's attempt to relate, to care, to matter, you begin to hear the deeper message. True understanding requires more than ears. It requires intuition. It requires patience. It requires you to become a translator of behavior, to see what lies beneath the spoken, because the unconscious, though it may not always be articulate, is always honest. And if you can read its signals, you'll find that love is being expressed more often than you think. Not in loud, cinematic ways, but in real, grounding, silent rituals that say, "You matter to me," even when the lips remain closed. You are a mirror, not a judge. In the delicate dance of love, this distinction changes everything. When you look at someone you care for, especially someone who struggles to express their emotions, who is learning how to love through their own pain, you are not meant to weigh, measure, or evaluate them as if you were standing above them. You are meant to reflect, to help them see what they cannot yet see in themselves. To be a mirror is to offer presence, not punishment. It is to become a sacred space where another soul can witness their own depth, fears, and beauty without shame. So many relationships falter not because of a lack of love, but because of an excess of judgment. We want love to come in a form that's easy, obvious, and familiar, and when it doesn't, when it's messy, hesitant, or imperfect, we assume something is wrong. We project our unmet needs onto the other, interpreting their struggles as personal failures, their silence as rejection, their distance as absence, but often their behavior is not about us at all. It is about their own unspoken battles, their private history, the echoes of wounds we may never fully understand. When you act as a mirror, you reflect their truth back to them without distortion. You do not blur it with assumptions. You do not smear it with blame. You see the brokenness and the brilliance side by side, and you hold space for both. This kind of seeing is rare, it is healing, because many people have spent their entire lives being judged. Judged for being too much or not enough. Judged for how they feel, for how they fail, for how they love. But when they are seen, truly seen, without judgment, something inside them softens. The armor begins to fall away. The heart begins to open. This doesn't mean you tolerate harm or lose yourself in their shadows. Being a mirror does not mean becoming invisible. It means offering clarity without condemnation. It means asking, what part of me is responding to this, instead of, what's wrong with them? Because often, what we react to in others is a reflection of our own inner landscape. Their silence may stir your fear of abandonment. Their hesitation may ignite your old hunger for approval. The mirror works both ways. In seeing them, you also see yourself, and in that sacred mutual reflection, growth becomes possible, not through force, not through demand, but through mutual revelation. You begin to ask deeper questions. How can I love them without trying to fix them? What does their love look like in its raw, unpolished form? How can I be a sanctuary, not a courtroom? To be a mirror is an act of courage and compassion. It requires you to hold back the impulse to judge, to correct, to control, and instead to offer your presence like still water, so that they may see their true self, and maybe in time love from a more honest place. Because sometimes, what a wounded soul needs most is not someone to teach them how to love, but someone who quietly believes that they already do, in their own way, more than they've ever been told.